This is Frameform.
Hey everyone, hope this episode is greeting your ears well as we settle into some cooler months ahead, depending on which hemisphere you are in, of course. Now, today's episode is a continuation of sorts of topics and conversations that were brought up at the Cinedance Festival this year. If you want to know more, you can listen to our episode on the feed. But this episode features three extraordinarily experienced artists who, like many who work in the screen dance field, wear many, many hats as creators, curators, educators, and more. Now, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes backgrounds of the three artists here. Kati Kallio is a prolific filmmaker based in Finland who was a co-founder of the Loikka Dance Film Festival, which ran between 2008 to 2018. Maia Sorensen is a Copenhagen-based artist and facilitator whose integrated artistic and curatorial practice includes work with ScreenMoves Dansehallerne, based in Denmark, and the international dance film competition 60 Seconds Dance. Helena Jonsdottir is an artist based between Brussels and Reykjavik, whose artistic practice of films with a movement-based core bears the name Physical Cinema, which is also the name of her long-running festival. Now, I caught up with all three at Cinedance, and I was very interested in speaking to them, not only as big fans of their work, but also to catch them in the early stages of their collaborative creation of a Nordic Screendance Network. In this conversation, we talk about how their experience is informing the creation of this network, and also how a network can contribute tangible means of creating more sustainable work in the field, which is something I know that many people listening to this probably endorse. Anyways, I hope that you enjoy. I'm so excited to speak with all of you, and I admire so much about the work that each of you have done. But for people who may not be familiar with you or your work, I actually wanted to ask each of you what your first encounter with screen dance or dance film was, and what your journey has been with creating it and curating it up to this point.
I think it was a film from DV8, maybe Cost of Living, that I saw, and I thought that it was quite an amazing and interesting art form. But immediately I was feeling or thinking that I maybe never going to get access to make one. So I was really thinking that it's too expensive for dance artists to go in there, that you really need to be established dance maker. 2005, I was working one stage performance. There was a cinematographer, Mika Ailasmäki, who was making a video projection to that piece. And after this work was done, he suggested to make a film. And I was like, okay, why not? Let's do it. And 2007, we shot the film. And my debut film, Breath, was premiered in 2008 in the very first Loikka Dance Film Festival in Helsinki, Finland, which we started with my colleague Hanna Pajala-Assefa and producer Aino Halonen. Then it was a lot about festival working. First, I was working in a main jury of the festival, which in our case it meant selection jury. Not really, we weren't giving prizes out. And organizing the festival and that sort of things. That was a great opportunity to learn about the art form itself. Also find out what kind of films I feel at that. Later in Loikka Works, I started to organize outreach programs, and that included curating screenings for schools and also hosting a workshop for schools and also curating touring programs. I managed to make a touring network in Finland for the films, and then also had a lot of international collaboration, Finnish films touring. 15 to 18 was my time to lead the festival as an artistic director. And during all this time when I was working for Loikka, I also was developing myself as a filmmaker, organizing workshops, or it was Loikka work also that we were organizing workshops. Making films and going to different festivals and networking and collaboration, etc., etc. Now I'm still doing all of this except running a festival. That's behind. So I'm still curating and making films and educating and networking, collaborating, and that sort of things.
I mean, I always say Loikka 2018 is one of the best dance film events I've ever been to, and I still so remember that that event and what I learned from that event. But it's also very intensive, and I mean it can be hard to balance both running this huge endeavor and working on your own artistic work as well.
Exactly, and low paid.
Maia, I'm actually stealing something an observation you had at Cinedance, how you were able to sort of balance sort of your personal practice and your curatorial practice. But I'd love to hear more about your journey into this world of dance film.
Going back to 2006, I was studying at the Martha Graham School in New York. My final year, I was focused on making choreography. And I was very interested in site-specific work. So I wanted to make a choreography in this very, very narrow, long hallway. And I had 15 dancers. And then quite quickly it became very apparent that there is not a room for an audience here. So I was like, okay, I'll just make a dance film. And I knew nothing about making films at all. Like, I mean, I didn't think about how to film it. I didn't think about that it needed editing or none of that. Like, I had no knowledge whatsoever, and I hadn't actually really seen a dance film. So along the process, I was like, okay, I'm actually going to leave it at that and not dive into the educational part and just go with completely how I feel about the things and make all the mistakes and all of that. Because it was my graduation work, so I was still a student, so I thought it was a good time to experiment. And so I did that, and then once I started working with the camera, I just fell in love with the possibilities. I loved how, because I was working in this hallway with sharp edges and corners and stuff, and I just loved how I could frame it within the frame of the camera. I loved the possibilities of playing with the gravity and how the movement could just change the space completely. So, and then I had this really strong feeling that, okay, this is my home within art. So from then on, I continued working on my own stuff. And in 2008, I moved back to Denmark and was shortly thereafter invited to be part of a group called ScreenMoves, which was led by Jeanette Ginslow. The purpose of the group was we were a few freelance artists and also some organizations, and our purpose was to make a lot of dance film activities and stuff. A few years later, I took over that and became like the project manager, curator, coordinator, everything. And I was running that for a few years while trying to do my own stuff on the side. One of the things we did was 60-second dance, also together with Loikka and Kati. But after some time, and I think that's something that we've all experienced, many of us who are curating and running festivals or running these different dance film activities, is that there is not a lot of money. And we divide all of our time and energy into these projects, and there is not enough time for our own things. So I burned out and then moved to Amsterdam for a couple of years. Didn't do much of that. Moved back to Denmark, and then I was ready to go again. So I think from my experience, I've learned that it's important to work socially sustainable. So that's really my goal, is to try to figure out how I can have an integrated practice so that what I do is it's not two separate practices. It's not a curatorial practice and then my own practice, my own artistic practice, but it's how do they feed off of each other also when I teach. So what is it that I'm teaching and how can I learn from that, and how can I use that in my own practice?
Now, Helena, I know that if we were to go into a whole screed about like what do we call this form, screen dance, dance film, dance on camera, dance for camera, I love the term that you use, physical cinema, and that's sort of in your moniker for the work that you've done for so many years. Can you talk about your introduction to screen dance and what your journey's been to this point?
I started off as a professional dancer for many years, and then I turned into a choreographer, as many dancers do. And then I was working as a summer job at Pegasus Pictures in Iceland, and we got this email from a guy, Magne Antonsen from Norway, who had Ultima Dance Film Festival in Oslo. I was given the email from him, and I had no idea what dance film was. I mean, we had VHS in Iceland and some DVDs, but it was not like I was so focused on the live performance that I didn't know about it. And when they gave me the email, I was like, yeah, I know what dance film is. Yes, of course. But I met him, and we got to be very good friends, and I call him the godmother of dance film because he introduced so many of us, and he started an amazing program called 10 Moving North. That was the reason he was contacting my film company that I was working for, and he was looking for producers from all the Nordic countries, and to make a long story short, they produced 10 dance films from 5 countries, and it was an amazing project. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that again. But hopefully maybe somebody who's listening now can maybe pick that up to USA, 10 Moving USA, I don't know.
I endorse this.
And then after that, I mean, I have created around 27 projects outside of the stage. I mean, I fell in love with this format because I lived on an island, and to take your dance performances, you had to fly or swim or take a ship. So it was very practical in a way to create a video or a film. I mean, digital came there very early. I got to know the dance film in 2000, which is quite late. Outside of my first video tryouts, like I did Red Buses was my first one, and I just was, had a Mac computer and iMovie, just very simple tools, and I just wanted to try them out, taught me everything, except the camera work was from a very good friend of mine, Haldán, and we sent it to a short film festival, and it won second prize. So I was like, okay, so this is interesting. This is a new stage for a dancer choreographer. So from there, I created Breaking Voices with the Iceland Dance Company, and it was actually picked up as a visual art because it was premiered at the Reykjavik Art Museum. It depends where you premiere your film is where it's going to be picked up in which worlds. And then I got to know that you can have another hat. So I had a hat as a dancer, choreographer, and a dance filmmaker, and now I was a visual artist. So that was quite a treat. At the same time, I was traveling with my dance performance with Iceland Dance Company to Belgium and China and so far. And I remember I went on this radio interview, and in Iceland, we don't prepare that much on interviews like we were having a podcast here or radio. And I was so shocked that he had actually looked into my past. And I realized it, oh my God, with the video, it's like new worlds of film, visual art, theater, dance. I mean, there's so many worlds that comes under this umbrella. And I found it so eye-opening. It's like, oh my God, I really want to explore this. And I was really thinking about going to a film school, but everybody said like, Helena, you've been working in front or behind the camera since you were 15, so just take courses and fill up your, unskillment, So I did. I went to LA, Hollywood, and took some additional courses to learn and to get confident in certain fields. And And then I from the film from 10 Moving North, Magne told me about this German competition in 2004, and I sent one of my scripts. I sent many scripts to the 10 Moving North, and they were like, "Oh, we cannot choose between them," said Magne. He was very nice to me, and I sent it to the German competition, and I was so fortunate to win that one. So all of a sudden I had 40,000 euros to make a project. And I was like, oh, and in Germany, it's like, oh my God, Germany has money, Iceland not. And from there, it's like another connection to Magne. This is how so important people are, to invest in good people. It's like from there, because I won this competition in Cologne, Arte Germany was in a jury, and a producer from Estonia met me again in another festival, and I met her first time in Magne's festival in 2000, and we did a project, first dance film in Estonia, with a very well-known actor as a main part, and we got Arte Germany, ABU. We sold the script to 12 television stations, and it was hugely distributed. It went into Clermont-Ferrand, and it won first prize in Paris. So it was quite a journey. I mean, how can you not fall in love with this, when you have such a luck that I did? But then I had, unfortunate in my personal life, my husband and other family members passed away, so I took 10 years break. But now I'm back again, and I was very curious when I came back, like, okay, it's been several years, so what's happening in the dance film world?
If we think about when you started, sort of mid-2000s, and where dance film was, Kati, you mentioned like the cost of living and sort of the late era Deviate films, which represent a very interesting shift in dance film at that time. And if we think about that and the changes in the form, in the way that it's made and the way that it's seen since, is there anything missing today that was present maybe when you started making dance films or when you started seeing them or presenting them?
I just remember this golden era in UK, with Bob Lockyer, David Hinton, all these people who pushed on BBC and the UK Culture Fund to create dance films specifically. I mean, it thanks to Deviate and other works. In the 90s, it was like this burst of amazing works that came from UK, and they had a production company in Brighton, and they had distribution companies, so all of us could see this also, and they had funding to have Liz Agis or anybody else to bring it to our countries. And that's how we got to know them, because there was no like World Wide Web at that time, or it's even hard today to find dance films. So with that boost from these beautiful British community, I think it has reflected into our period, especially in up to 2000 and 2005.
I came in after that period was about, it was kind of ending, but you had all this work and that had so much visibility. And then in the Netherlands, they started also a program called Point Taken. Just for the people who don't know about it, it was they were pairing up a choreographer and a film director, and it was supported, and then they got like a decent amount of money to make a short film. And that was organized by, I think, the Dutch television and like some media funds, and I think Cinedance also was part of that. So that was also a strong program that was really given a lot of attention, and it was really bringing dance film forward in a way. And then also, Helena, you mentioned 10 Moving North. And these things, to my knowledge at least, it doesn't exist anymore. There is not any programs like that are pushing to both produce and promote dance films at the same time. And it does give us, like Helena was saying, it does give something to look for. It's like something to strive for, because it is pushing the art form forward. And I think that we're missing that a little bit in our time now.
When we were starting and pioneering in our country, we were bringing the dance film here and doing a lot of things. We were so excited about it, and we wanted to learn more and more. And then we started to build a community around us. So there were quite many of us who were putting their interest and knowledge to better the conditions in Finland, for example, and working for the Loikka Festival as a volunteer, but also very low paid members. I kind of missed that community feel, what we had when everything was new and everything was exciting. Then there is like 10 or let's say 20, the 15 years later, you find out that you are kind of doing the same thing, but now you're doing that alone with the less resources what you had. Because with the same reasons, because you feel that it's important to keep on doing all those different activities to lift this art form visibility in Finland, and kind of missing the community, all this conversations and learning from each other, wondering and that sort of things. And maybe that is also why in one place, for example, I started to feel that we need to build up some sort of network or community here in Nordic. We already are because there is a long history and we've been collaborating with each other.
Speaking of that history, when did you first encounter each other's work, and when did you start to know where each person was coming from?
I met both Helena and Kati at the same time in Helsinki because Helena was teaching and Kati and Hanna Pajala was organizing a workshop under Loikka. Helena was my first dance film teacher, and Kati was organizer and participant and doing a million different things. So that's how I met these two ladies.
And me and Helena, we met in Copenhagen when we wanted to find somebody to teach us. And Helena is also my very first dance film teacher.
I love how you met each other in sort of opposite cities, and Maia, you meeting the team in Helsinki, and Kati and Helena, you meeting in Copenhagen. And I actually wanted to touch on the idea of having geographically localized networks and collectives, because we see similar collectives out there right now. Like we have Rediv. I don't know if you'd call that localized exactly, because it covers South America and the Iberian Peninsula, which is far away, as well as the Mediterranean Dance Film Collective. What do you see as the benefit of having a network that is geographically located? And furthermore, how does your experience working as artists and as curators inform how you approach such a network, or how you foresee approaching such a network?
The landscape has changed a lot, and it also you cannot point at like one specific thing what happened, but we have so many tools today, and we have so many platforms online that it gets a little bit lost in our world. One of the reasons I fell in love with dance for camera, or physical cinema, like I call it, is because I wanted to touch people outside of my dance bubble. And I feel so joyful when I see ladies in their 80s watching my film, outside in Cologne, 3,000 audiences, and they turn into 29-year-old girls when they discover that I created this physical cinema film and that they are allowed to dance. Is the importance of meeting each other, because the question before that we met in Helsinki under the umbrella of Loikka, and then me and Kati met in Copenhagen under the umbrella of Kedia. And this is the most vital thing that I think that we have to nourish today, is we have to meet each other, because the conversations in the elevators or around the dinner table, that's where the connections and the ideas come. And then we use online meetings and emails to communicate those ideas forward. Otherwise, you get lonely and isolated in your own world, and you're trying to reach out. But all of you have this experience. You go to a festival. Oh, I'm gonna meet these people. I'm gonna do that. But then everything changed. You know, the festival is totally different than you were planning.
For us, of course, we have been in the elevator quite many times already, we three. So it's very natural for us that we are doing something together also.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also why it is a Nordic. There is also the reason that we have a specific funding for this kind of network and collaborations in Nordic countries, Nordic and Baltic countries, which makes it possible also to even start to dream about a project or anything. Particularly for me, it's we have a dance film arts kind of scenery here in Finland, but we are so separated. I try to collect them every now and then together, but still it doesn't really hold, and I really miss my community. And I feel that for example, Helena and Maia are my closest community members. We know each other so long time and kind of feel that it's easy to communicate with. I like to talk with these women because they are so passionate and for the art form, but also they have a history and they have knowledge.
Kati, you were mentioning the Nordic funding. We are very fortunate to have that, but I think it's also, additionally to that, there is also a sense of Nordic identity, although we are very different, but there is something that it's difficult to grasp, and we've talked about it also when we were doing 60 Seconds Dance, like to have this Nordic approach, but what does it actually mean? And I cannot pinpoint that, but there is this feeling of having something in common because we are from the same area, we have similar history, or at least our histories have intertwined, like for example Denmark invading Iceland and like not so pretty things, so there is like a history that goes generations back, which in a way kind of brings us together also at some level. But then additionally to that, I think it's super important to have the meetings. I just want to add to that. I think it's important to have the physical meetings and create, to the extent that it's possible, like a community around it to anchor the art form. It's not enough just to have online events or online meetings, because you need that physicality in it. You need to ground it. You need to anchor the art form. And especially from my experience in Denmark, at least, because we're not as far as Finland. Finland is probably, I think we can say, it's like the country that's the furthest in the Nordic countries. This is definitely very important in Denmark to have these meetings and bringing other people here too, to build something up for the artists and the audiences here.
Same here. It is still, even that you think that we are the furthest, of course, because of the funding is more maybe possible here to get funding for your films.
Yeah, for sure. You do have a connection with the film funds.
Yeah.
Films that has been funded by film funds, which is not the case in Denmark. But in general, like, people know about it due to all of the work that you've done with Loikka.
But I wanted to add something why the physical meetings are important, because then you get to laugh. The laughing is so much important when you meet each other and you have your meetings and you do your serious works and then you laugh.
One of the benefits of having a network or having such a robust community is the opportunity to help with regards to advocacy, and especially advocacy for artists and those working in artistic fields. And I wanted to follow up from a discussion at Synodance regarding curation and how sometimes international film festivals or arts organizations might ask for your input or might ask for a selection of films, and how sometimes it can be difficult to advocate like what the value that your experience is bringing to that. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask, like, what kind of challenges have you faced in that area, and how do you think that having a more robust network can help with regards to some of those challenges?
I think just really simple. It's just that we have each other and have the support. That's already kind of making, at least that's how I feel, that makes me feel stronger, especially when I go out and have to negotiate with different organizations or whatever it is. Just knowing that, it's not just, you're not alone, but there is a community. I think that already helps a lot.
We are small identities, and I mean, I always say, like, in the wonderful world of capitalism, is that the arts are on the bottom of the capitalism, and then the contemporary dance is on the bottom of the arts, and then we have a dance film underneath there. So it's a quite small pond that we are working in. But big thinkers and big ideas, and they have reached out in Quelvent of amazing audiences also. I mean, I have a personal experience in that. And now, like, because you, Clare, are also looking into it, I mean, we are seeing women in the beginning of creation of the camera in history were all women, and they were doing dance film. So dance film is not a new genre, but so there is all these potentials there. It's just that we need more visibility, and we need to also support each other. And I took that inspiration to my festival in Iceland, is that I'm working with the Reykjavik Dance Festival, Nordic House, Stockfish Film Festival, Sequences Film Festival, Borealis in Akureyri. We are all doing our little entity, but together we can share and show each other's works, or also maybe apply for funding together, and therefore a visitor can come and share to, more than only one festival or one venue. This is maybe because of the change of the landscape. I'm part of a network in Cannes and also Argos here in Brussels, who had like up to 6,000 titles in their archives. I really recommend it to go and reach for it, because I'm based here in Belgium, because I fell in love also with the artistic voices and also the location. I can walk over to Germany, France, and even England. And there in Argos in Brussels is like both dance films and visual art film or film arts, whatever you want to call it. There is no extinction here in Belgium, and that I also learned in Iceland specifically. Is like it's so hard that to use the word dance, because dance is only in musicals and pole dancing in a way. Icelanders love football, but they don't know that much about contemporary dance, except it comes like a scene in a Hollywood film. So, just like using the name physical cinema, I gain other audiences like into my workshops or lectures, like more males, producers, architects, photographers. And when they get to know and to see what we are doing, they fall in love with it. I mean, it's like, soon as this is introduced to somebody who understands it, it's like it goes really towards extension of a network there and collaborations. And so it's like to put ourselves, with a head high, and we touch the film world, we touch the visual art world, we touch dance world, we touch the music world. So I'm creating a new program in Iceland that I'm hoping that it will go through. It's called CAP, Creative Art Bridge, and I'm introducing international film artists to Icelandic music scene, because I'm very connected to the Icelandic music scene, and I miss to see like music videos from them, or like if they don't have a big contrast like Björk or Sigur Rós, it's and this is a great opportunity to bring you guys to work with Icelandic music scene. This I really think it's amazing.
Personally, I think that it's of course it's our responsibility as a curator to teach the different organizations how they should behave and also the value of the art form and the artists, and also the work of the curator. And it can be a long journey, of course, but and in the beginning you kind of had to be in the situation that you have to negotiate, for example, free fees to kind of find the audience for the art form, or teach the film organization, for example, to understand that this is a film. It's not something which is in the bottom of the contemporary dance, but it's a film. Film is not it's a great art form in that sense. It's a pure film, actually, we could say so. So it's a lot about that, what we need to do. We need to, like Helena said, put our heads up and be proud of the art form and talk about it and tell them how to treat us well. And the community helps, like Maia says. It helps when we are many who thinks the same.
I think also there's a tendency in the dance film world to talk about us as, oh, we're so niche, it's so small. And I think exactly that, like me and my partner here in Denmark, we decided that niche is a forbidden word. We cannot talk about it like that. Because we're talking ourselves down, and there is absolutely no need to.
And this is how we actually managed to be in contact with all these film people. We did say that this is film. This is great art form. It's not a niche.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to join. And I'm, again, so thrilled to be able to speak with all of you and I guess pick your brains through and through. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for
inviting us.
Yeah, I hope it was a little bit useful.
This is Frameform, hosted by Hannah Weber, Jen Ray, and Clare Schweitzer. Episode edited by the Frameform team, with social media support from Maddie Leitner and music by Mason Carlton. Thanks for listening.